What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your Emmy check-in this week, as well as everything else that's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan with my co-host Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, you watched the whole Emmy show last night, is that right?
You do it for the content, my man. You got to know what you're talking about. Yes, I did. 3 hours, like nothing. Yeah, I watched all the Emmys, and it was a more or less predictable night, but we'll get to that.
I'm impressed because I was just flipping back and forth. I caught maybe in total like a half hour of it. I actually ended up seeing a lot of the bigger awards near the end of the night. That's when I started tuning in more. But I'm excited to talk about the winners because I think there's some cool stuff. But before we jump in, hit that subscribe if you're watching on youtube.com/nostalgiapod. If you're on soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod, where you can listen to the podcast any way you want to. I would say go to iTunes and subscribe there. Give us a 5-star rating and review. And follow the podcast anywhere else that you want to, including Twitter at nostalgiapod. So, Dave, just give me your overall feeling on the Emmys last night. I mean, did you like the show? Obviously, it was socially distanced. People were in their homes or at venues. Jimmy Kimmel was doing it from a remote site. It was a very COVID award show.
Yeah, definitely. I thought actually, given the circumstances, it went pretty well. It was pretty enjoyable, inoffensive, and probably would have been duller had it not be for like the quirks that are doing a live event in 2020. There's some choices that they made. I think the most notable one would be that they did all the comedy awards, then all the limited series awards, then all the drama awards. Basically, each hour was dedicated to that section, and that's quite noticeable when only one comedy wins for the first hour of the show. Of course, Schitt's Creek getting 7 wins on the broadcast, the first series to do that, and the first comedy to sweep all the acting awards. We thought Schitt's Creek would have a big night, but to have that dominating type of night was still quite unexpected. And, it's a popular show, but you also could see some, as the internet is wont to do, when something gets that much praise, things start to turn. And, obviously that's not what you want either. But it's the first family sitcom to win Best Comedy since 2014, which is the last time Modern Family won. Mm-hmm. So kind of reminiscent of that, I guess.
Dan Levy was actually very aware of that too. I think he said we're about one more award away from the entire internet turning on us at one point. So he was aware of the reception of it all. I was watching my Patriots on Sunday Night Football for a majority of the time, but for that first hour, every time I clicked over, it was just Eugene Levy, Dan Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Annie Murphy, in some order, talking and sharing how wonderful Schitt's Creek was as an experience for them, and honestly, good for them. It's a very beloved show. Nice to see them get recognized, and especially now that the show's over.
Exactly. First time being recognized too at the end.
It's nice to see that. So I don't really have too many qualms with that, and that was kind of what we expected, that it could go that way. But what other awards or moments stood out to you from the show?
Yeah, so in light of not having a lot of celebrities on hand to do any kind of bits, or having the announcers have some kind of scripted thing, in its place, there was some pre-recorded stuff with like essential workers, which I thought was actually pretty cool. Like farmers and postal workers and other people as well, just random normal people, and they kind of announced and introduced some awards. And in general, I think there was some, actually it came across as genuine, some like highlighting of other things beyond TV. And Jimmy came out and was upfront about that in his monologue, about how the Emmys are frivolous and unimportant and have nothing really to do with what's going on right now. And I think setting that expectation was nice. And I thought Kimmel's opening monologue was pretty good because it I think reads the room correctly. Mm-hmm. But then at that point, he's just kind of shepherding things through as you usually do with something like the Emmys, especially when, again, there's less time for that kind of banter. I think the one moment that stands out, probably two of them actually in the beginning, were when Jason Bateman was actually there, standing in with the cardboard cutouts, like his physical person. That was pretty funny. And then Jennifer Aniston also was there, using a fire extinguisher to put out a disinfected envelope that Jimmy disinfected via flame, and it continued to burn, I think, longer than they planned. So she had to douse it like 3 times. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it was just like little moments, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it went like 3 hours and change. It was pretty brisk given how the structure is.
Yeah, especially because they didn't really have like the playoff music and stuff like that. One of the things I thought might happen was people kind of go on for a while, but the fact that they ended, I think, around like 11:04, Sterling K. Brown announced the winner of the best outstanding drama was. I was pretty impressed with that, and I also thought it was pretty funny how they basically had people at their homes to deliver these awards if they wanted to, and Rami from the show Rami
Youssef, yeah.
He had a really funny video of the person with the award like waving and walking away after he lost. Really made me laugh. So there were definitely some funny moments. I think a couple of big takeaways from last night. A lot of actors of color, non-white actors, winning awards. I think we had 7 black actors win awards last night, or
if you
overall
include
over the weekend.
Yeah, which is a new high water mark.
And Maya Rudolph won for best voice in an animated series, or I guess guest voice in an animated series for Big Mouth, where she plays the hormone monster for I forgot the kid's name, but really she just won that for the way that she says bubble bath, which is I'm not even going to attempt to say, but if you haven't heard it, look it up. Regina King won, which I was pumped about, but yeah, definitely chalk. I think even more exciting was her co-star Yahya Abdul-Mateen winning, also for Watchmen and supporting actor in a limited
Not
series.
Jim Parsons, baby.
I know. Well, that was the thing. As we were looking through, we were like, who could win
splitting.
This? Yeah, exactly. But the awards went to the right place, I would say. So that was pretty awesome. Zendaya. Now that was a moment, and you tweeted about this last night, and you talked about it in the pod last week too. That category was stacked, and for her to win and be the youngest best actress in a drama series winner ever, I mean, if you haven't bought Zendaya stock, I think it's too late because the price is too high at this point. This is Apple, this is Amazon. She's on a rocket ship to the moon.
Yeah, and we'll get to see her on Netflix later this year, and Malcolm and Marie, that secret COVID movie Sam Levinson shot with her and John David Washington. Yeah, Zendaya stock is just pointed up. So,
yep.
But yeah, I mean, unexpected. Really did not think that would happen. And that's really cool because everyone agrees that she's the best and most essential part of Euphoria. So
show does not work without her at all. And just another surprise was supporting actress in a limited series or movie where we saw Uzo Aduba win for Mrs. America.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Again, we feared some vote splitting because she was there with 2 of her co-stars, and again, her portrayal of Shirley Chisholm very essential to Mrs. America. I wish we got more of her in the show, but that's just the way that show was structured, right? You get little moments with every character. That was awesome. Yeah, I mean, limited series actually spread around more than I thought, right? Unorthodox won one of the smaller awards.
Yep.
So if you think about that, a lot of other shows win. Watchmen didn't get the full sweep, even if it won between King and winning for limited series. It won what we expected to. And of course, it won for writing. Damon and Cord Jefferson won for episode 6, I think, the one where you learn about the origins of Foot of Justice, the best episode of the show.
Yep.
That was that needed to happen, and they won. That was great.
Totally. A lot of it went chalk, like we talked about, or like we've mentioned. But one that I was really happy went chalk, and I felt like I kind of needed to see, was Jeremy Strong winning for outstanding lead actor in a drama series. Man, his outfit, that off gray or whatever it was, I don't even know. What a vibe. Wearing an ascot, so shout out to him. Any other moments or things that really stood out to you?
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing, right? So I think a lot of celebrity watchers are like, oh, this is really cool to see behind the curtain into celebrities' homes. And I think something like Jesse Armstrong for Succession, I think he was in a hotel or something, but just seeing people in their homes, or you seeing Holland Taylor chilling with her girlfriend Sarah Paulson, stuff like that. It's just kind of cool to see how they're doing it. And it's just fun to see everyone glammed up to be in their house on Zoom, But for the most part, there weren't any technical difficulties, And
Pretty
that's
crazy.
something I think everyone at this point could totally see happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like the connections and the quality of the speeches seem to work out well. Um, so I thought that was actually an unexpected positive. Uh, and yeah, I think one other moment in the beginning, when they did a bit with Jimmy and postal workers, and the postal worker was played by Anthony Carrigan, who was doing basically his NoHo Hank impression from
Mm.
performance from Barry. That was quite funny. Um, yeah, I mean, Succession winning best drama, that's what we expected, right? Billy Crudup winning best supporting for the
Yeah.
morning show. I think that was a little more unexpected. People have remarked that he was definitely doing a lot on the morning show,
Mhm.
perhaps in a good way. So that's cool. Julia Garner won again for Ozark. So there's some variety in drama. Of course, Zendaya, who we mentioned. But yeah, I mean, other chalk stuff, right? RuPaul, John Oliver,
Mm-hmm.
all the major awards were chalk. So I feel like the Emmys more often than not are predictable in this way. It's more
Yeah.
about the nominations where we have the more interesting conversations and like trying to narrow down those fields. But alas, I don't mind the total tallies. You have HBO winning 30 awards, Netflix is 21, even though Netflix had more nominations. So HBO continues to hold it down. Funny thing I started counting up was not everyone who was nominated was on Zoom, like is like on the
Mm.
feed, right? And there's some people that like stand out, like they wouldn't bother, right? Michael Douglas, Alan
Jeremy
Arkin,
Irons.
yeah, Meryl
Yep.
Streep, Laura Dern. But I really laughed when I saw Jodie Comer, the incumbent winner of Best Actress in a Drama, is not even on Zoom to lose.
Yep. Well, Jodie Comer is a queen herself. So we stand her here. We like her a
Oh,
lot.
one thing we have to, okay, two things to talk about. We got the new trailers for WandaVision from
Mm-hmm.
Disney Plus, which is now confirmed to be the first Marvel show on Disney Plus coming out later this year. We also saw the first look at Small Acts, that anthology series from Steve McQueen coming on Amazon in
Mm-hmm.
November. Excited about both of those. But also, there's this thing on Twitter where the New York Post referred to Zendaya's win as an upset because it was an upset. She was not expected to win. Yet all these people, Zendaya stands and other people, non-stands, thought they meant upset, as in people were pissed off that Zendaya won. And there's
No.
just complete failure to understand the English language really frustrated me on Twitter. And these people not knowing what the word upset means. Like the New York Post, not a publication you need to defend usually. But like, come on, people, do better.
I
It was
wonder if
plus
it's
1,000
just
to win. It's an upset. God damn it.
I wonder if it's just that these new generations don't gamble enough, Dave. They don't understand that there's odds and expected winners in these things. I don't know, but that's very 2020 right there for you,
That
I'd say.
is.
So the Emmys, like we said, predictable, but not always in a bad way. So why don't we move on to some music now, though, and talk about maybe some artists that aren't as predictable or maybe more predictable than we thought. And we'll start with Ava Max, the singer known for being uh, basically having one huge hit with Sweet But
Huge.
Psycho. And this is a huge hit. Dropped in 2017, went number one in 22 countries across the world, including the UK, Australia, Germany. It got to number 10 on the US Billboard
Mm,
charts. Never got to number one here. But that
yeah.
was really like, I mean, she had dropped a couple of singles here and there, a couple of songs, but that was really like her coming out party, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
it's been 3 years. We're finally getting the debut album from her. Expectations probably fairly high going into this. Were your expectations met?
Yeah. Um, Good question. I would say no. No, they probably were not met because it's really hard to match something like Sweet But Psycho, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nearing 1 billion plays because it's a really infectious, catchy pop song that's really well made. A chorus that uh, it just gets stuck in your ear, right? And we'll talk about a movie that used that in a drop later on. Like it's a hit for a reason. And when you have something so ubiquitous like that, and that being the one thing you're known for because you kind of struggled to find a sound within the mainstream music industry before that song came out, uh, people probably don't have an idea of what kind of artist you are still. They just know that song, and they might not really even know it was by you, right? So I think Ava Max had a lot to achieve with this new album, and I think you can probably tell with the lack of success in the States anyway, with those subsequent singles leading up to this album, that she's still kind of finding a way to find that identity. And it's kind of interesting to see that she's a successful artist, quite successful artist in Europe, but just it really hasn't hit that much here, except in the case of Sweet But Psycho, which just couldn't be denied. But still, right, that took like over a year basically to become a big hit here. So, yeah, I mean, I think this album, I wanted to be, I kind of have similar thoughts to Katy Perry. I wanted it to be weird. I wanted to try more. And it felt kind of safe.
It did feel a little bit safe. You know, Heaven and Hell, that's which is the title of the album. I don't know if we've mentioned that yet. Is interesting because I think in a lot of ways the theme kind of does hold throughout. You know, she refers back to it in a lot of the tracks even have like the words heaven or hell in them. But I almost feel like, I almost felt like she feels like an artist who might be more mature than her music lets on, in a way. Like I felt like there were certain songs, like I thought Naked or Salt were songs that really stood out to me as like, this is a artist who seems to have vision, seems to have really something to say. And then there's songs like Tattoo, which I was literally like, this could have been written by like a 13-year-old. I thought it was really bad. And that's the thing, is the album was just so consistent. It felt like she struggled almost with wanting to make something in the same vein as Charlie XCX, obviously not up to that level, but like kind of be weird and poppy.
Mm-hmm.
But she kind of had this huge hit and was like, well, there's a formula here and I'm trying to recapture that. And was kind of stuck in between, it felt.
Yeah, she has this working relationship with this producer, Circuit, I think is how you say it, Cirkut, who's a disciple of Dr. Luke. So you can tell that they were trying to, probably fix that. I think the closest they got is probably Born to the Night in terms of trying to find that hit formula again. But yeah, to your point about some of the songs, there's some really cliche songwriting here, pop songwriting. It's just, totally. It's not, it's lowbrow. And that's okay sometimes. But I actually think this album's a bit overproduced at times. Like, I feel like they touched her vocals a lot. Like, from what I can tell, she has a pretty good voice, but you don't almost get it all the time, you know? Like, I also agree, Naked stood out to me, closest thing she has to a ballad on this.
Yep.
And like I said, there's some songs that are close to the banger status you get with Sweet But Psycho, but I think she's still kind of trying to find that identity. And like, she's been compared a lot to like Fame era Lady Gaga, partially due to like her visual aesthetic and stuff, but she's not nearly as weird as Gaga was, even at that time, even if Gaga still made a lot of conventional sounds for what 2009 pop music on the radio was, you know? So, and she doesn't need to have like superstar success here in the States. Look at someone like Carly Rae Jepsen, who is not a chart presence really at all, but has a lot of fans and makes good music. That's not a problem. Even Charlie XCX for the most part isn't a chart force, but I think she's still kind of finding that identity. And I mean, when you have a song with Sweet But Psycho giving you residuals, I guess you can take that time. It's all right. But yeah, I kind of wanted more from this.
Yeah, but I think for a debut album, like to have even a couple songs that we're talking about as being songs that we thought were pretty good, had a good sound. I also thought, oh my God, like What Happened or whatever that song title was kind of interesting just in terms of like concept, you know?
Oh my God, what's happening?
Yeah, what's happening? Especially she has like that like spoken word like breakdown, which is kind of like an interesting performance. But yeah, I think this leaves a little bit to be desired. But I don't know. Still some good stuff. We're gonna add Naked to our Nowstalgia Best of 2020 playlist, so follow that on Spotify. Let's move on to another debut album, Dave. Although this is an artist who also has one enormous hit. That's Lil Tecca with Ransom. His new album, Virgo World. A song like Ransom is really, really good, and you can like see the talent. but Virgo World just felt so uninspired. Especially for a debut, I was really let down. Were you feeling the same?
Oh, major letdown, major letdown. Lil Tecca dropped "We Love You, Tecca," his debut mixtape, about a year ago. At this point, Ransom was on that, but there were also a handful of album cuts or mixtape cuts on there. Right, he had Shots and Did It Again, which and Love Me, right? Songs that are kind of in that Ransom formula where you have Lil Tecca, this little nerdy kid with braces from New York, who just has that melodic sound down.
Yep.
You know, he has that A Boogie shit going. And he just has this earworm melodic quality to get shit stuck in your ear. And of course, Ransom was a huge hit because of those qualities. And yet, on Virgo World, and I should say that mixtape also was probably a bit of a letdown too. Like it was weak, and hearing Virgo World, I think Lil Tecca at this point is just a singles artist, because on both projects now he has demonstrated that he can't escape being really repetitive with his songs when he puts out a lot of them at once. And that's disappointing to me because, as you said, you can see the talent, and we've already achieved such highs for a kid who's 17? Like,
yeah.
But Virgo Worlds, I was really let down. I think this, I mean, I don't think there's one song on Virgo World that people will like as much as those 4 songs I just mentioned off "We Love You, Tecca." Oh. And that's not good, because shelf life in hip hop can be fast.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
So people will stop really tuning in and giving a shit what you put out if you don't feed the streets. And I'm at a loss. I'm really surprised that it was this lame.
I really like how your take is there's no good songs, and that's not good. Yeah, you think? Definitely not good. There's a couple of songs I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's no good songs. There's some moments I like, but it's just a major letdown due to the standard we had put on Tecca.
Yeah, no, I'm mischaracterizing your quote for sure, but yeah, I think there's a couple of songs that stood out to me. I guess "Miss Me" I liked quite a bit. I kind of thought like he got that melodic, like a little more like island sound. It's like a fun song, which I kind of liked. So that
I wrote down island beat. He did.
Yeah.
He also had that on Insecurities.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
It's like, okay, I can see you can kind of ride this. This sounds pretty cool. Do this more often. This actually stands out a little bit.
Yeah, you know that Chance song where he's like, oh no, it's favorite song off
Acid Rap.
Acid Rap, thank you. That has like the same vibe to me, so I think that's kind of why I liked "Miss Me." I don't know, a couple of the ones in the second half I actually thought weren't too bad. "Last Call" I thought was okay. "Out of Love" was like, I thought him and Internet Money had a decent back and forth. I don't know. That's the thing. This is kind of how I just felt throughout the whole album. I was like, okay.
Well, yeah. And what's so weird to me too is Internet Money, which is the collective that he's a part of. Nick Mira, the producer, has a big role in Tecca's rise, as well as other people like Juice WRLD's. The best Tecca song I heard this year, J-Lo, is on that Internet Money album from a few weeks back, and it's not on this. Mm-hmm. That song is better and stickier and has those Tecca qualities you like in a much stronger way than anything on Virgo World. And that's just perplexing that he gave that song away. He could have given one of these away instead, I will say I like Dolly a lot. Dolly is notable because that's actually a repurposed Uzi leak from 2018. Okay. And, when I first heard it, before I realized it was a song that had been out in some form, I was like, oh, this is like a classic like Uzi flow. This feels a little older. Then I realized, oh, it's because it is older. Interesting. But I actually thought Tecca's probably my favorite bars from Tecca are on this, from the whole all Virgo World. I just seen the feds lay low. I got the bullets halo. She want to come fuck. She won't say no. Yep. If you want a feature, come and pay though. I was like, okay, Tecca. Like, you spin. We see that here.
See that. Respect that. I respect that. But like, then I listened to a song like "Selection," which has actually like notable production from Skrillex and DJ Scheme. And yet, Tecca's just doing like go best friend" the whole time. Like what are we doing here? You kind of wasted that beat, my guy. Yeah, well,
I don't know. This was a major letdown.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I think both of these artists were uh, had a lot of expectation going into these albums, and really just the vision or the the I don't know, inspiration wasn't there for them for some reason. So I'm hoping both of them can kind of find it back. Like you said, for Tecca, that industry can move quick. And I mean, Ava Max, we very easily could be a one-hit wonder in a lot of ways.
Yes.
So both these artists are, kind of having to find their ground moving forward. Dave, what song are we going to add to the playlist from Tecca? Any of them?
I'd say Dolly.
Dolly. All right.
Well, Uzi brings it on that. That's half the battle. Half the song isn't Tecca.
Well, that's going to do it for music today. And we're going to continue on to something else that I think is a bit disappointing, and that's Ratched on Netflix from Ryan Murphy.
Hits keep coming today, my guy.
I know. This, we started talking about the Emmys, which I thought was actually pretty good. And the rest of this pod, I don't know how high we are on all this stuff. So we'll see. But Ryan Murphy, I mean, we just talked about him with Hollywood, which Jim Parsons was nominated for an Emmy for, which is really funny because that performance was something. Mm-hmm. But
shot Jeremy Pope getting nominated, though.
Yes, for sure. That was a well-deserved nomination. But we've been talking about Ryan Murphy a lot. He signed that deal with Netflix, and he has been pumping out the content.
I think so. That's my question to you. We are getting quantity from Ryan Murphy, no doubt about that, with that Netflix deal. Is that enough for Netflix? Because every show he puts out, every season, Politician Season 2 came out this year as well, every show seems to be number one on Netflix for at least that weekend, usually more, and I don't know what the fuck that means, honestly.
Exactly.
But people seem to watch his shit. Is that enough for Netflix? The only thing, we can't answer that, though, because the only people that know the answer to that is Netflix. They don't tell us this shit. So I wonder is if shows that get mixed reception consistently but get eyeballs, is that enough? Or do they just get eyeballs because they're on Netflix and that's it? The Netflix effect is real with Schitt's Creek and Cobra Kai. Shows that aren't from Netflix but then go to Netflix become hits because they're on Netflix. Mm-hmm. Does that benefit Netflix,
Yeah, shows that were good, but just on channels that people weren't able to watch them is kind of what you just named. Like who had YouTube TV or had a subscription to YouTube where they could watch Cobra Kai. Then it gets on Netflix, which everybody has. It's like, oh, this show rules. We heard Cobra Kai was good 2 years ago.
Yes.
I would lean more towards your second hypothesis, which is Netflix needs this deal to be good for them because they kind of keep doing what all these other channels are doing. They're hiring creators, and to give Ryan Murphy all this money and then have everything he puts out, not make the top 10 would look really bad for them, I'd say.
Right.
It also probably really bad for them in terms of getting more creators down the line, because if they're actually like, nah, this show is buns, dude, we're not gonna put this on our top 10, then other creators are going to feel a little bit less likely to probably.
They want their shit to be watched.
Exactly. So I think this is the case, especially for Ratched. I think The Politician and even Hollywood probably is more deserved to be in that top 10. Politician, I think there's moments that are good. I didn't see much redeemable stuff with this.
Yeah, this is clearly the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, I've only watched, I actually got through 3 episodes, and I think you only got through 1 or 2. But it was a tough watch and not super engaging. I think what I found different about Ratched than most of the other shows, Ratched, similar to Hollywood, is a period piece, takes place back in the 40s.
Yeah, post-war.
Yeah, late 40s, like early Hollywood. 50s. And it follows Nurse Ratched, played by Sarah Paulson, who is kind of she's up to something. We'll put it that way. She's working her way into this mental hospital. Seems like she's trying to help out this person that murdered a bunch of priests.
Finn Wittrock's character.
Yes. And, you have a couple of very famous people popping up in side roles. You have Corey Stoll, Sex and the City person,
Cynthia Nixon.
Thank you. I was going to say Annie Lennox, which is St. Vincent, so definitely not the right person.
No, that's Annie Clark.
Annie Clark, you're right. Annie Lennox is walking on broken glass. Jeez. So, yeah, I mean, there's some interesting stuff going on, but I think a lot of the Ryan Murphy stuff, you have these moments of levity, these really funny moments. You think about Hollywood and how like dumb the main character was at times, and how he was kind of like being taken for a ride a lot, and that was like it made the show kind of light and funny.
Or Dylan McDermott's presence the whole time as Scotty Bowers standing. Yep,
so good. You think about the politician and just the absurdity and ridiculousness. Like Gwyneth Paltrow, especially in the second season, is all just one huge bit the whole time.
Yes.
There's not much of that in this. And Ratched ends up being a little bit more American Horror Story, I'd say, than Glee, which I think Ryan Murphy's other Netflix shows have kind of leaned a little bit more towards. So
yeah.
I don't know. I didn't find it super enjoyable, and I also don't find it super intriguing. How are you feeling about the show in general, though? We're talking quite a bit.
I mean, it has a lot of his hallmarks, right? Style over substance, lacking subtlety.
Totally.
A wide-ranging cast of characters, usually played by people he's worked with before. You know, I think it's notable is that Murphy didn't actually develop this show. This was made by Evan Romansky, and Netflix won a bidding war with Hulu and Apple for this. And then once Netflix won that bidding war, Murphy got involved and helped get this made, and he did shoot the pilot. He also helped secure the rights to this because this is a prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and of course, Nurse Ratched is the villain of that movie and novel and play. And that kind of speaks to the whole necessity of this whole show. Like we just got a Perry Mason reboot, right? Something from decades prior that anyone who's watching it probably has no connection to. But Perry Mason, at least, is kind of operating at a different level and is just a much better show. Ratched is trying to give an origin story to a famous villain, literally she's in like the top 5 on that classic AFI villains list, like a classic movie villain that won Best Actress, right? We didn't need an origin story to that. There was no questions about that presence and what it meant. It was more about like the corruption of like institution and like bureaucracy and stuff, right? And like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, that's one of 3 movies to sweep the big 5 at the Oscars, right? Pretty sure it's a closed case. We don't need to go back to this text. And yet the desire for IP got an origin story for Nurse Ratched made. Like, it's just so weird. And then yet you watch the show and it gives you no reason to be okay with something like this. Right. Like, I think of it has been referenced a lot around the talk about Ratched is the show Bates Motel, which is a prequel to Psycho. And people actually liked how that show ended. And that helped, at least justify its existence, as we often say. But this show, Ratched, which, by the way, is getting a season 2, it was ordered for 2 seasons, it doesn't, like, rise above anything, right? It just kind of gives you all those cliches you associate with Ryan Murphy, but isn't doing anything cool or exciting enough to, I feel like, justify the time investment.
Yeah. Are you sure One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is good? Are we sure about that? I don't know. Ryan Murphy at this point, I mean, like you said, this isn't maybe one of his original concepts, but I'm pretty much selling all my stock in him. I think, for the Nip Tucks or the Glees or it's you don't get, I think, as much bang for your buck with him as you want, and I'm probably not going to finish this, to be completely honest. I got 3 episodes in. I think I'm out. But if you really enjoy Ratched, or if you think we should go back to it, drop a comment. Let us know why. Maybe you can convince us, because we do watch a lot of TV, so we can try to make time if we get enough feedback. But for everything I'm seeing too, is that this is a show that's being critically panned, and I think the Murphy Netflix relationship is gaining a little bit of ire. So
at least he's working, though.
Hey,
I give him that. He's
keep getting those checks,
cranking out shows.
Absolutely.
Have we seen a Shonda Rhimes show for Netflix yet? No. Have we seen a Benioff and Weiss show? No. At least
Not
he's
yet.
working.
Yeah, that's true. Netflix also did give us a new movie this past week, Dave, with a stacked cast. And that movie was Antonio Campos's The Devil All the Time, which is an adaptation of Donald Ray Pollock's book of the same name. And Pollock actually is the narrator in this. Pretty cool. Interesting to note, Jake Gyllenhaal produced this, or was a producer on this, which is kind of funny because Dave's background picture is Robert Pattinson. I feel like if Pattinson wasn't the preacher, Jake Gyllenhaal could have played that preacher really well.
Absolutely.
But we'll get to Pattinson in a second. I guess to just describe the plot of this is there's a lot of plot, but basically the idea is there's a small town in what is it, Mississippi or
don't we start in
Ohio.
like West Virginia area? Yeah,
I think so. It's like West
Southern
Virginia,
Ohio. I have Midwest Southern border.
Yeah, it's Ohio. It feels Mississippi to me, but it's Ohio back in 1945. You have Bill Skarsgård playing a father to a young son. I guess he's not a father yet when you meet him, but yeah, comes back, has quite a bit of trauma, gets married, has a son, very religious man, and kind of I think that seems to be at the center of his like religion and as a corrupting force for people. And really, I guess to like just summarize as briefly as we can, Bill Skarsgård commits seems like or has his wife die. Very distraught by that, starts to kind of lose his mind. Alvin, no, it's Arvin, I'm sorry. Which played by Tom Holland eventually, but witnesses these travesties. And Arvin then experiences a series of other tragedies throughout his life and then seeks vengeance. That's as succinct as I can be with it. I really enjoyed this film.
Interesting.
It's not a fun watch, but no. I thought for a movie that has some really heartbreaking and disgusting moments in a lot of ways, I actually really like Tom Holland in this. And I feel like for me, it was nice to see him not playing Spider-Man, not playing, the happy-go-lucky type character. So I really enjoyed that switch up, but I know you weren't as high on this movie as I was.
Yeah, I mean, it is dark. It is cold. And I think part of it for me is that Bill Skarsgård stuff kind of serves as like a prologue for the plot, but it's a 45-minute prologue. Yeah. Like we don't get Pattinson or even Holland until a substantial part of the movie has happened, But for me, I think if they had tweaked this script in a few ways, I would have liked it a lot more. I think part of the weakness with the script is there's an over-reliance on narration. Just communicating things to us about the characters because they didn't write lines or frame the story in a way that the characters could tell us that themselves. Didn't like that at all. But for me, it was the stuff with Jason Clarke and Riley Keough. They're like serial murdering couple. Everything about them in their first like 3 scenes just felt completely superfluous and unnecessary to the actual like story we're watching. And then of course they get brought back into the main fold at the end in terms of like the brother character Sebastian Stan plays, and then of course Holland. That happens at the end, but like everything else in the beginning, they just felt like a big distraction, like kind of like a pain point in the script to me. But once we got Holland, I liked it a lot more, and I liked his stuff. And I think, as you said, with Tom Holland, he's still a young man, but most of his time has been occupied by playing Spider-Man. And we've gotten a few moments, right? You got Lost City of Z. You got his voice work in Onward, which came out earlier this year. And we know Cherry's, right before the pandemic. And we know Cherry's coming out next year with the Russo brothers, and Uncharted was about to shoot. It was like a few days in the production when pandemic started. But Holland, this is probably his best performance to date, live action anyway. Like I really liked him in Onward, but that's voice work. I think this is one of Tom Holland's best performances. And even like just basic stuff, like I loved watching him beat the shit out of those three dudes from the school, you know? But I thought he actually kind of carried that vengeance in a convincing way. And I liked it a lot, you know? I think Liza Scanlon, though, I think she's better in Baby Teeth over this year. I think Pattinson was better in Tenet. You know, it's like, it's not really anyone else's best work you've seen recently. Funny to note that Jason Clarke has some issues with his spouse. Shocker.
He gets cucked every movie, dude.
Yeah, he wasn't actually cucked this one, but it was like, it wasn't just a solid relationship, right? He had some issues still.
I mean, it was like, if you had to like label it, I guess it's not technically cucking if you're killing people too, but I mean, he watched people have sex with his wife first. That's
actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, that's
fuck, man.
He just likes to get
this
cucked.
keeps happening.
I literally, I was just started cracking up when I figured out like what their whole thing was. It was pretty ridiculous. You know, I know this isn't anyone else's like best work, but I really liked Bill Skarsgård too. Even though that first 45 minutes definitely could have been chopped down. Like we kind of got the point of like who that character was in the first like 10 minutes, and they stretched it out for like 15 more. I thought he was pretty good, and you know, especially because we haven't seen a lot of him outside of like It, and I think there was one other movie.
Villains. I really liked him in Villains
right.
last year, which was a underseen movie with Micah Monroe. He's quite good in that. But yeah, you're right. He's most well known for being Pennywise.
Yeah, and then you know, Jason Clarke and Sebastian Stan, solid character actors at this point who have had their moments, but I don't think either one of them is like popped as like a traditional like star. You know, like they're probably always going to be in that B, C list. Scanlon, like you said, Baby Teeth, but that was a great role in a great movie. We really enjoyed that. Go check out that review. Like you said, Pattinson and Tenet, and Pattinson's just been on a heater. I mean, like, of course, taking these weird roles.
This is like solid like B tier Pattinson, which just speaks to how hot he's been for the last 6 years.
Yeah, this actually reminded me more of Pattinson in last year's The King with Chalamet.
Sure. Yes.
Because he plays that really weird French guy. And and he's really weird in this, and weird and just despicable.
Chewing the scenery.
Yep, and that scene when Holland comes to kill him, and like they're going back and forth, like that moment was so tense, and I really enjoyed that. And that, you know, you were talking about the script, and I think that's actually a really good point, because I feel like all the stuff with Sebastian Stan and all the stuff with Jason Clarke and Riley Keough could have even just been cut out in a way.
Yeah,
like just
definitely.
make the movie about, you know, Arvin, you know, getting vengeance for his family against this church, which has done them wrong throughout the years. But, you know, I'm sure that there's a bigger meaning to it that maybe I'm missing with Clarke and Keough and Sebastian Stan, just kind of representing the evilness of this town. Do you think this is like a movie that could have a sequel down the line? Because it kind of felt like it was left open-ended at the end a bit, with him kind of, you know, getting away from the town. But
I mean, there's not a whole lot of history for movies as bleak getting sequels, you know.
True.
I mean, Sicario got a sequel. That immediately came to mind. Like, apart from horror movies, like, I don't know. That's a good question. You know, I'm curious how this compares to its book counterpart. You know, yeah, I would probably bet against that, but just because, like, I don't know, is anyone dying to be back with Arvin again? Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, this is such a bleak movie. It probably won't be, but you know, I wouldn't mind seeing Holland doing more stuff like this.
Oh, no doubt about that.
For sure.
I'm curious to see what Cherry's like. You know, that's I believe that's a really and the source material, I believe, is like really violent in that, really dark as well. So, but he's reuniting with the Russos, so that'll be interesting. And also he'll get to be a leading man, of course, in Uncharted. So, just him being his normal charming self, but not being Peter Parker, is also welcome. So, yeah, we like Tom Holland. So this was, you know, just getting this in the CV. This kind of reminds me of what Rob started doing after Twilight, right? Just kind of taking weird roles, not always the lead. In this case, you are, but like just kind of just getting those reps up and doing kind of different stuff. So yeah, good stuff.
Moving on though to a bit, I'm gonna guess this is a more upbeat movie, but you saw it in theaters, Dave. So I have not been able to see this. Broken Hearts Gallery.
Correct.
Yeah, this is a rom com, Dave. Are you a big rom com fan?
I like good rom coms. I love
this a
Set
good
It
one?
Up on Netflix. Set It Up is so fucking good. I've watched that multiple times. I don't really rewatch shit.
Doesn't it have that pizza scene that everybody said was like
Yeah,
scene of that year?
Zoe Deutsch and Glenn Powell. Great
Yes.
movie. Now, To All the Boys I Loved Before, when it's more teen rom com, we out on that. You can watch our review of To All the Boys too. That movie sucked. But Broken Hearts Gallery, you know, on its face, it's a conventional rom com. It doesn't do anything that surprising. There are some tried and true beats to romantic comedies, but I think they're beats for a reason, because when done well, they work and the movie succeeds. And I think the Broken Hearts Gallery does just that. And I did see this in the theaters. I happen to be the only person there. The privilege of living close to a theater means I can make those last minute decisions. So when I saw no one was going, and knowing that no one had really been going to this movie, it's made a modest like almost $2 million about that. Like, it's not, no one's going to see this movie in the theaters. I was like, oh, well, if I can see this by myself, I'll feel safe enough, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what I did. So, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time. You know, I think it more than anything, it's a showcase for its lead, which is played by Geraldine Viswanathan, who everyone knows from Blockers, and she had a role in Bad Education earlier this year as well. And you know, she's just a really charismatic performer. You know, just a rising star. She's really good, and her foil in this, you know, her love interest, as the rom com obviously would lead you believe as soon as you meet him, is played by Dacre Montgomery, who was in Power Rangers, but everyone probably knows him from Stranger Things season 2. He plays Billy. And what I liked about him in this was that he was actually kind of playing off type. He was not playing like the jock character or like the douche or the bad guy. He was just kind of actually being this more like understated, like kind of like complicated soul character. And it was just kind of cool to see that from Dacre, because I think his most, you know, popular role so far hasn't been that. And I liked his chemistry with Geraldine. And yeah, I mean, the name, The Broken Hearts Gallery, it's about Geraldine's character. What's her name? I forget her name. I did not write it down. But Geraldine's character, Lucy, she keeps these like souvenirs of past relationships because she can't actually let go of like those moments in her lives. So she has like all these little like trinkets and pieces of junk from her exes and stuff. And after meeting Dacre's character, she ends up making this kind of like art gallery piece where she like puts on display this, and it's her form of like release and like letting go and moving on. And then she blasts this to the world via social media, and other people started doing the same, and it's like this very cathartic exercise. Meanwhile, the rest of the movie has all the rom-com beats as she's going up and down with her own life, right? So it's just kind of like one of those cute rom-coms, and I think it works really well. And I think this is a movie that would be very, very successful on streaming when that eventually gets there. You know, remains to be seen if this will just go to VOD first, or if there's a deal lined up. I don't know about that yet, but I think once people get to see this, I think this will be well liked. I also liked in a small part, one of Lucy's friends and roommates is played by Philippa Sue of Hamilton fame.
Yeah.
And there's this really funny moment when those two and their other friend go to do karaoke, and they sing Ava Max's Sweet But Psycho, among other songs. And it's just hilarious to see Philippa Sue not like being a world-class singer and like actually like toning down her own vocals to just fit in and be a drunk girl doing karaoke. That's funny. You know, it's like really hilarious, like little meta moment if you know who Philippa is.
Yeah.
And this was shot in Toronto, but it's supposed to be New York City. And I thought actually Toronto stood in pretty well. It did kind of give me New York vibes, even though it wasn't shot there at all. So yeah, I mean, if you like rom-coms, I think you like this movie. And Geraldine's awesome. So good stuff.
the rom-com stamp of approval from Dave. That says a lot, folks. So if you can see this safely, go see it. Or if you have to wait till it goes on,
no shame in waiting. It'll be there soon.
Yeah, especially because some places you cannot see it right now. So
yeah.
Dave, I think that's gonna do it for this week. But we got a lot of music to listen to for next week, right?
Yes. So we got the first 2 episodes of Fargo, season 4.
Hell yeah.
FX on Hulu. FX Sunday night, Hulu the next morning. Chris Rock, the lead. Very excited about that. We also have Enola Holmes film on Netflix starring Millie Bobby Brown and Henry Cavill. After that, we have a lot of notable music releases. Joji's new album Nectar, Sylvan Esso, 2 Chainz, Action Bronson, Machine Gun Kelly, Fleet Foxes, by the time you listen to this, will have already dropped. And also Spillage Village, which is the rap supergroup with Jid and Earth Gang and other Atlanta rappers. So a lot to listen to, and I'm intrigued to hear most of that. So we'll be getting back to you on those.
Yeah, Dave. I would save Sylvan Esso and Fleet Foxes for bedtime for you. I'd say it's probably gonna put you to sleep, I'd imagine. But folks, if you're still listening, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? SoundCloud.com/NowstalgiaPod, YouTube.com/NowstalgiaPod, Nowstalgia Best of 2020 on Spotify, and also at NowstalgiaPod on Twitter. Wear a mask. We'll see you next week.